Hey, what's up everybody? So today I'm going to show you how to make a Lego head. There are a few problems with it though, and I'll show you at the end of the video. But I'm just going to start off by turning the grid on, doing Command G. And there we go. And I'm going to hit S. And I'm going to start off with the square shape, and I'll just use this yellow fill and hold shift down and select black for the stroke. So I'm going to start by clicking in the very center and holding shift and option down while I drag, and that just keeps it centered as I'm drawing. And I think I'll go ahead and change the width a little bit. Oops. Hit Q and select shape. Oh, turn the stroke on. That would help. And let's do 4 for the width of the stroke. And I'll go ahead and zoom in. I'm going to add a few points to get that kind of rounded head look. I'll add some points here and making sure to keep it kind of centered. Not kind of, have to keep it centered. And I'll just kind of get the general shape. I think maybe that's close. I think that might be even a little wider. It's almost a square. There we go. Now I'm going to hit Command G and turn the grid off now because I just wanted to make rounded edges. So I'm just kind of adding points, hitting C and curving these out. So we're kind of getting these curved Lego head edges. And Command G. But the important thing is that we need to have the side of the heads lining up to the lines, because I'm going to show you how I made the face parts circle around the character's head. So perfectly, or close to it. So let me rename this head shape. And now I'm going to just go ahead and add some eyes. So I'll do a new vector layer and I'll call this eyes. And I will rig this later, but I wanted to show you the principle of how I got this to turn around. Let's see. So we'll go ahead and select the circle or ellipse tool. I'll go ahead and draw an eye. And hit Q and select that color and select black. So we have black eye. Maybe move that down about here. I'm going to go ahead and do a Command C, Command V to copy and paste that circle. And having grid-ons just helping me align the both of the eyes right in the center. Actually, let me delete that. I'm going to do Command C, Command V to copy paste, and I'm going to grab the corner and shrink this down. Hit Q. Command G to turn the grid off for a second because I want to move this smaller circle I just made and make that white, just so I have a reflection for the eye. Now I'll turn the grid back on. I'll go ahead, select G and click and drag over the eye. Command C, Command V to copy paste, and we'll move that over right about there. Is that centered? One more. There we go. Wait, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oops, trying to get, there we go. Now the eyes are centered. Okay. So what I want to do is make these eyes circle around the head in 3D space. So what I'm going to have to use is the follow path tool. And you guys might have seen this in other videos and other tutorials. And I used it in my tornado video as well. But we also need to rotate the eyes as well. So I'm going to create a new vector layer, and I'm just going to call this eye path. Or let's call it face path, because we're going to use it for other parts as well. So I'll do face path. Now I'm going to create a new shape, and it's going to be a circle. And what I'm going to do is hold Option and Shift down again, and we want to extend it all the way to the side of the head. So I'm grabbing this. Actually, let's turn off the fill as well, because we don't need to see a stroke or the fill itself. We just need a path. So I'll go ahead and grab the circle tool, hold Shift and Option down, left click and drag, And we want the circle to extend right to the edges of the head, like that. Okay? And then we'll go ahead, and for follow path to work, you actually need to have the parts that you want to rotate or follow in a group. But in this instance, we're going to create a bone layer instead of just a group layer, because eventually we want to rig it. So I'm going to create a new bone layer. I'll just call this face bones. Face bones. And then I'm going to left click and drag, left click and then hold shift down and select the eyes and the face path together, so they're both selected. I'll left click and drag them up. Now both of them are in the bone layer. And actually, let's put the head shape in there too. We want everything. We're going to have all the head pieces in here. Okay. So now to connect the eyes to that face path, we need to select the eyes or the eye layer. Then we're going to come over here and select this tool right here, which is the follow path. Once I select it, you can see that the path becomes visible. Let me hit Command G so I can hide it real quick, or the grid. So you can see that circle that we drew is right there. It doesn't have any coloring on it or stroke. But we're going to go ahead and click anywhere on that with the follow path tool. And you see it kind of snaps to this circle. But we want it to be positioned right at the very beginning of the circle itself. So we're going to type in the percentage, we'll type 0. I'll hit 0. Now it's at the very top of this circle. And what we're going to have this do is we're going to have this rotate all the way around, but we want it to spin around the head shape. So what we have to do is rotate the path itself. So when I click the path, face path, I'm going to select this rotate layer XY. What that's doing is rotating the circle in 3D space. So if I hold shift and option down and I'm dragging it downward, you see the eyes start coming down. It's because the path itself has actually been turned horizontally. So now it's sitting in 3D space on that line. So if I click orbit, which is this tool right here, we're just going to turn it so you can see the camera. I'm going to come in here. So this is just so you can see what's actually happening. So here's our flat picture of the head, or the head shape, the yellow right there. And then you can see the eyes are floating outside in front of that piece of artwork. But when we're looking directly at it, it looks like it's on top of the head. It's kind of a fake 3D thing. So I'll reset the view. So when I want to have the eyes spin around. So when let me go back into orbit for just a second. So now you can see right here, the eyes are in the front of this piece of artwork. And if I go into the eyes and select the follow path tool, when we change the percentage, I'm going to click on it and just use my mouse wheel. You can see it rotates. Then it ends up going behind the head itself. But because we don't have sort layers by depth, it looks like it's still in front. So let's go ahead and double click our face bones layer. And then we're going to click depth sort, sort layers by depth, and then sort by true distance. All that means is that if another piece of artwork goes behind another one in real 3D space, it's going to automatically rearrange the order. So if I hit apply, you can see it's hidden now because it's actually behind the yellow piece of artwork, or the head piece. So let's go back to the eyes. And if you see, if I rotate this, it's behind. Let me turn the orbit. So now it's behind it. And if I keep rotating it all the way back to the beginning, I'm glad that actually happened. Did you see how when I rotated it, it still looked like it was behind? That's just a kind of a glitch that Anime Studio has sometimes when you're doing this. It won't show up in the render, but if I rotate it, have it go behind, it should go behind. See how it's not showing it? It's just some kind of weird thing. I'm going to click on the timeline just so you can see. It is actually working. And when I rotate it back, it goes back to the front. So that's the basic principle of how we're going to get it to spin around, but we need to do some other things to actually make it spin around. So I'm going to go back to the face bones, and let's go ahead and reset that view. Where are we at? I need to reset the view. Head shape, orbit, reset view. There we go. Okay. So let's click on the eyes and then go ahead and follow path. Let's reset it back to 0, which means it's in the front, remember. And so now we're going to create a smart bone action to actually turn the eyes. So I'm going to select the face bones, and that's also why I created a face bone layer. Bone layers and group layers are the same thing, except obviously bones, you can add bones. So I'll go ahead and hit A. I'll just draw a bone straight up. Actually, I'm going to draw it straight down. So that means it's facing forward. It's just going to look better if we just start it that way. I'll go ahead and select the bone strength because we don't actually need any bone strength for this. We'll go ahead and left click and drag to the left. And then I'm going to hit B. I'll rename this head turn. And I always like to turn the labels on to make sure I know what my bones are being used for. So I'm going to go ahead and color it and show labels so it says head turn. So now let's go ahead and create a smart bone head turn action. So we're going to go up to Window, Actions, and under the Smart Bones tab, make sure you click Smart Bones and make sure that you're on the bone layer itself, and then click New. And then we'll go ahead and name this action the exact same name as the bone, so head turn. Like that. And then we'll go ahead and we'll go up to 24 frames. So move your timeline indicator to 24. Then I'm going to hit T. I'll grab the center of the bone to rotate it. And then I'm going to hold shift down so it snaps in 45-degree angles and pull it all the way to the right. So now it's turning to the right, and we want the eyes to turn all the way to the right. So let's go click on the eye layer, and under the follow path tool, type in 25. The reason we're typing in 25% is because that's 1/4 of the rotation of the circle. So when it's rotating 25%, if I type in 25, that means it's all the way to the right. Okay? But obviously the eyes are still facing forward, and we don't want that, so we're also going to turn them. So we're going to use this rotate XY, just like we did for the path itself. We'll click the rotate XY button, and I'm going to hold down Shift Option, and I'm going to left click and drag to the right, and that's actually going to turn the eyes this way to the right. And you see, and when it says 90%, that's exactly what we want because it's rotating 90 degrees from its original position. So if I go back to frame 0 and I just kind of scrub through the timeline, you'll see that the bone turns, and then the eyes are also turning as they follow the path. So we're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. So we'll go to frame 48 now, and we know that we want it to be all the way behind the head. So we'll go ahead and hit T. I'm going to select the bone layer, grab the bone, hit T, hold shift down, click the center of the bone and turn it all the way up. And we also know that we want the eyes to be at 50% because it's going to be halfway around the circle. So we'll click the follow path tool, type in 50%. Now it's all the way behind the head layer, and we need to click the rotate XY tool, hold shift and option. Again, we're going to click left click and drag to the right until it straightens out to 180 degrees. So that means that it's facing away from us. And let's drag through the timeline to see. So it turns all the way sideways. Then at 48, it's going to be all the way behind the head. 72. At frame 72, obviously we're going to click the bone layer, hit T, rotate, holding shift down so it snaps, makes it easier to get those angles, all the way pointing to the left. Click on the eye layer. We want that to be 75% because it's 3/4 of the way done. Rotate XY, so we need to hold shift and option. Always drag to the left, or I mean to the right, so drag that so it snaps twice. It should say 270 degrees, which is so it's facing all the way to the left. And then obviously the last one is going to be frame 96. I'm just choosing keyframes where there's lines just so it's evenly spaced. So on 96, I'll hit T, make sure I'm on the bone layer, hit T, hold shift down, grab the center of the bone, rotate it all the way back down, click on the eye layer, and now it's going to go on follow path. We'll type in 100%. That means it's going to rotate all the way around. Click return, and then rotate XY layer, hold shift, option down, and make the eyes go right back into their original position right there. And now I'll double click back into the main timeline. And now I'll drag into the timeline just to test this out. And on the bone layer, I'll hit T, and let's go ahead and turn it. Now you can see our eyes are spinning around that artwork in 3D space, and they're actually being hidden without the layers being readjusted. Because we said always sort the artwork in 3D space, basically. But you'll notice a couple little things. One, the eyes are floating outside of the head. So we can do a couple different things. One is to just mask it out. So I will double click the face bone layer, click masking, and hide all, and hit apply. And it doesn't look like it did anything, but if you'll notice, in the layers, there's a plus sign under the head shape, so this is going to be the mask. And the eyes have a little, and the face path also have these little half white, half gray circles. That means those are going to be masks. So if I go into the timeline, hit T, and rotate, once it gets off of the head layer, it starts to disappear because it's being masked out. So that's one way. The other way to do this is to, let's double click, let's go masking, no masking in this group, and apply. And the other thing that we can do is shrink the path a little bit. So under face path, it's still rotated horizontally, but it's going to be too hard to grab it and shrink it this way. So let's go ahead and rotate XY, hold shift and option down, and rotate it up just a little bit. So it's now it's at a 45-degree angle, but that's just so we can see the edges. So I'm going to hit T, and now we can actually grab the handles and shrink it just a little bit. So if I hold option down and shift, it'll keep its circular shape, and we can just shrink it a little bit. And you can kind of play with it until you find the right spot. And then I'll rotate the XY back up. And then now let's go under the face bones and just check to see how far out it's sticking from the head. That's a little better. It's really, really close. But the problem with that is you'll have little, you can see it from the side right there. When it's totally to the right or left, you're going to have this little image right there. But all you have to do is, you know, not turn it that far. But I prefer the masking. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Command Z and just go back all the way. And let's check. Let me test that again. Command Z, go back a little bit more. Okay, there's our mask. So now we have our mask. Oops. Let me test it again. Let's see. Something weird's going on now. Because why? I don't know if it's because I reshaped or redid that, but let me check this again. Now it's working fine. I think maybe the reason that it's you saw how the eyes were popping in and out. Well, the smartbone action takes 96 frames to complete. So if I'm trying to turn it in only 24, I think it might mess it up. Like it just, I don't know. Maybe it was just because it was zoomed in or out. I don't know. Seems to be working now though. Let's go ahead. I want to go back into the smartbone actions for just 1 second because I also want to do one more thing and make sure the animation is smooth. So we'll go into actions, double click the head turn. Let's go ahead and left click and drag over all the keyframes, right click and hit linear. That way the spin motion is constant and it doesn't, we won't have any problems with other pieces of artwork when we bring them in. So there's our eyes. And let's go back out from actions. And let's go ahead and add a new piece of artwork. Let's do the mouth. So I'm going to do a new vector. And I'm going to call this mouth shape. And we'll go ahead and draw a circle. I'm going to turn the auto stroke and autofill on. And select black for both of them. The stroke and the fill. And we'll just draw a mouth shape. And we can adjust it later. I'm just going to go ahead and put it right here. And then I'm also going to create a new vector layer and call it mouth pieces. And this time we are going to put it in a group folder, those two layers. So I'll just type in mouths or call this mouths for the folder. Actually, let's right click and convert it to a switch layer because we're going to make different mouths. And I'm just going to use some masking. That's why I'm using a folder and two different pieces of artwork. It's just going to be easier to do that. Let's go ahead and under mouthpieces. Why is... Oh, no. We need this to be... I'm sorry. I was wondering, I was clicking on mouthpieces and the mouth shape was disappearing. That's because it's a switch layer. We need it to be a regular group layer. And then a switch layer inside of that. It's complicated, but I'll show you. It'll work out. So now we're going to make a group layer because this is going to be mouths, or the first mouth that we make. So mouthpieces and mouth shape, we'll drag both of those in there. Make sure mouth shape is on the bottom. We'll double click the mouth layer or group, click masking, hide all, and apply, and then hit OK. And that under mouth pieces, we'll go ahead and draw the teeth and the tongue. So first we'll use the circle tool. I'll select pink and keep the stroke black, and then I'll just draw a circle. And you can see that's the tongue. Oh, the other thing that we need to do is, you'll notice that the mouth shape isn't pushing out the stroke that it has. So let's double click on the mouth group, and under masking, no, under the mouth shape, let's double click that, click masking, and then click expand mask pixel and exclude strokes. Extrude. I can't talk. Extrude stroke. extrude strokes, and then hit apply. Now the stroke is always going to be on top, and you can see it now. Can't talk. Okay, let's go back into mouthpieces, and then we'll go ahead and draw some teeth. So I'll use the rectangle tool. Click on white for a fill, and we'll just draw some teeth here. We probably can just keep them as rectangles. I'll just do a Command C, Command V to copy paste. So we have some teeth up here, upper teeth, lower teeth, and there we have our first mouth. And it's in a group folder, but we'll go ahead and drop it into the face bones. And let's go ahead and do the same thing. Let's face path. Let's go ahead and click that. I'm gonna rotate it, use the rotate XY tool and rotate it down for just a second, because we want to do the same thing with the mouths. I'm gonna click on the mouths. Right now it's right in line with the head, so that's why you can't see it. So we'll go ahead and click mouths. We'll click follow path. Let's click the path itself, and we'll do the same thing. We're going to start at 0. Hit return. Now let's rotate the face path back. So face path, rotate XY, and hold Shift Option, drag up. There it is. And let's go ahead and move the mouths up a little bit too. Right there. Okay. So under the face bones, let's double click the head turn and look at that. So now we need to do the same thing with the mouth. That folder right there, so it rotates along with the eyes. So we're going to do the exact same thing. Click on the mouths, and we're in our head turn action. So we'll go to frame 24, follow path. Remember, we'll need to do a 1/4 of the way around, so 25%. Like that. Hit the rotate XY tool, hold Shift Option, left click and drag to the right till it says 90, or you can just type in 90. Let's go ahead and type. Let me undo that for a second. Go back, and we'll use typing instead. So we'll go to 24, and then follow path, 25%, and then click on the rotate XY, and Y rotation, we'll just type in 90. So that turns all the way. And then we'll go to frame 48. Follow path, we need it to be 50% around. So we'll type in 50. It's going to be right completely turned around. And we'll click the rotate XY. We'll type in 180 degrees. Hit return so it's facing that way. Go to frame 72. We'll rotate to 270. And make sure follow path is 75%. So it's on this side. And then frame 96. It's going to be 100% around for the follow path. And rotate XY 360. Right? There we go. Right when I type 360, it didn't pop in again. Again, that's just a minor little bug, because it's not actually rendering in Anime Studio. All right, so we'll go back into the timeline, and let's see. Let's double check. I'll go back in the face bones, head turn. Or wait, let's just go into the timeline and let's make sure that the mouth is also rotating. Yep. And it's not hiding yet because it's not masked, I don't think. So let's double click that. Masking. It says mask this layer. It might be masking. It's just because I'm using masking in it already, it's not rendering in our preview. So let's turn it so you can see it sticking outside of the head. Now let's do a Command R. Oh yeah, see, it's actually is getting masked out. It's just another little quirk about Anime Studio is that if you're using a mask on top of a mask, it will not show you that in all of the preview when you're working. And let's see. Let's make sure the head layer, head shape, masking, expand, mask by pixel, and extrude strokes again too, and apply. That way, if I do a Command R, you can see that the stroke is actually on the side. It wasn't showing up when the head was turning. Okay. So now that we have the mouths, let's actually rename. Let's rename this mouth group. Let's just call it Smile. And now we're going to go ahead and put this into a switch layer because we want to make several different mouths. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new switch layer. We'll call this one mouths because this is actually going to be switching mouths. Or we'll say mouth shapes just to kind of keep it organized. And let's go ahead and drag that into the switch layer. And I think, yeah, it's still rotating since we have the rotation set up for the mouse. Oh, one other thing. Let's click on that. Or go into the window, actions, head turn. Let's go ahead and make sure that it's spinning at the same rate. So with the Smile group selected, make sure you select all those keyframes, right click and hit linear, just so it's turning at the same pace as the eyes. And then let's go back out and test it again. And it looks like it's a little off though. Hold on. Head turn. See, the mouth looks like it's... Why does it look like it's speeding up? Yeah, and it's not... Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to leave this all in here because something, this might happen to you too. Let's check both of the mouth shape. Oops. Face bones, window, actions. Let's check and make sure everything's... Okay, so the mouth shape... Mouth pieces don't have anything in them. All the keyframes are right here. So why is it rotating faster? Linear. Okay, eyes. Oh, somehow the linear keyframes got taken off. Let's change that. Now let's try that again. Hit T, rotate. There we go. Now the eyes and the mouth are rotating together. Cool. Now because, oops, go back. So now that we have the smile created, all we need to do to make other mouth shapes is we can copy these. Instead of having to redo a bunch of different artwork, we'll go ahead and copy it. And Smile 2, we can just type in frown. Open that folder up, change the mouth shape. I'll grab the edges here. Make it a frown. And we should, yeah. So because we've created the rotation for the mouths and we're copying the previous mouth, we don't have to put a new action in or create keyframes for this new mouth. It's already there. So if I have frown and let's say I rotate it, the bone this way, and then I want to switch use a switch layer and change it to smile. We can do that, and the rotation's already in there, so it's going to save a lot of time as far as creating new mouths and things like that. So let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and create all the mouths for our character. Frown on frame 0. I'll duplicate that and I'll put frown mouth closed. Go into here and we'll just go ahead and close his mouth. I'm going to hit C to uncurve like that. And there we go. We'll start from the smile. I'm going to use smile, and I'm going to make the mouth sounds. So we'll do ah. And go into that. Mouth shape. Mouth pieces. I'll go ahead and grab the teeth and move those out of the way. So the tongue's at the bottom, teeth are on top. And then that'll be it for ah. Duplicate that. We'll call this eh. Eh or E. Hit return. Move the teeth up in the mouth pieces so they're almost touching, like that. And then we'll duplicate that one. We'll call this cons for consonants. And this one, the teeth actually touch. And actually, there we go. A, E, I, O. So we'll start from cons. We'll copy cons. We'll call this O or R. So O, comma R if there's an R sound. And we'll go into that one. Mouth shape. We'll just grab the points, move those all in for an oo sound. Make it pretty small. Move the teeth out of the way. And the tongue. O-R. And let's see. Make another one. We'll call this F, comma V, or V. And we'll go ahead and change the mouth shape again. Oops. I'm going to grab this. Grab the sides. And mouth pieces. We'll go ahead and I don't know how I would make that for this one. Mouth shape. Maybe like this. I'm going to add a couple. So it looks like the top lip or the bottom lip is being bitten. So all I'm adding is a couple of little lines. So it looks like more like a F sound. If you hear me making weird sounds, it's just because I'm mouthing or trying to make the shape with my own mouth and trying to imagine how that looks. A-E-I-O-U. And we can do smile. So now we have all of these mouths. A-E-I-O-U. What else? I might be missing something. Let's go ahead and make a smart bone action for the mouths though real quick. Actually, smile. Let's duplicate. Let's just make one that's neutral. Neutral? I don't know if I spelled that right. Whatever. Mouth shape. We'll just do kind of just a little bit of a smile going on. And you can keep making as many mouths as you want. There we go. That's And maybe shrink this a little bit. Okay, so there's our neutral mouth. So I'm gonna create a smart bone action for the mouths as well. And I'll go ahead and hit B, or actually select the face bone layer. First things first, get rid of these keyframes. Make sure I'm on frame 0. Hit B. Make sure the head bone is not selected, so we'll click in the empty space. We'll create a new bone. So A. I'm going to drag it up. I'll rename it mouths. And then I will hit B. And again, I like to label my stuff, so I'm clicking label, mouths, and then we're going to go ahead and create switch layer action, smart bone action. So new action, and make sure you have face bone layer selected. Create a new action, we'll call it mouths. Make sure it's named exactly what your bone is right here. If I name it something different, mouths, and I like 2 S's, and I hit OK, the timeline is going to turn red because it doesn't recognize any bones named mouths with 2 S's. So let me delete that. Creating a new smart bone action, mouths. Now you can see it's blue. So we're on the very first keyframe. It automatically puts you on frame 1. On mouth shapes, I'm going to go ahead and right click, and I will start with neutral. So that's the first keyframe. You'll see it started making some keyframes. I'm going to hit right on my arrow keys, so it goes to the very next keyframe. I'll right click my mouth shapes. I'll select A. Then the right arrow for the next keyframe. Right click my mouths, select E. Right arrow. Right click, select cons. And you can see it's making keyframes for each one of these. Right arrow, right click, select OR. Right arrow, right click, FV. Right arrow, right click, frown. Right arrow, right click, frown closed. Right arrow, right click, and smile for the last one. So now we've moved all the way to frame 9, and make sure you remember to rotate the bone. So I'm gonna click on the bone layer. Well, I'll hit T, or select the bone layer, hit T, grab the center of the bone, remember. I'm gonna hold shift down and just rotate it. Oops. I know why it did that, but let's go back. Well, let's go ahead and rotate it. So we're going to rotate it so it's all the way to the right. Like that. So it looked like it messed up really bad, but that's only because, let's go back into the timeline, and I didn't turn the bone strength down. So let's turn that down so it doesn't grab the face and mess it up. And now let's double check that. Go into mouths. So when it rotates, now it's just cycling through the mouths we made. Okay. So we'll go back into the timeline. And if we test this, let's go ahead and hide the actions for a second. So I can grab mouths, and we have a whole set of mouths right now. And we can also turn the head, and the mouths all work correctly all the way around in 3D space. So I think that's going to be it for this first video. I don't want to make, the tutorials extremely long. I know sometimes you guys are like, man, they're like 30, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Hopefully this isn't too long. Probably is, probably 30 minutes. But we'll go ahead and stop here just so you guys have you can focus on a couple things. You can focus on how to make the head rotate. And again, let me go ahead and show you. If I hit orbit, it's kind of a fake 3D. So let me move in here. And let me unhide. Let's under masking. Let's no masking in the group so you can actually see everything. So if I rotate it, so the face parts are floating in front of the head, way in front. And that's determined by the face path that we created. That circle at the very beginning. If I click on that, you can see it. There it is. So the face is all connected to this circle, this oval right here. And if I grab the head turn and move it, you see that it's spinning around this flat piece of artwork right there. Let's go back. And so just keep that in mind. Yeah. So you want to focus on creating the spin, you know, using the follow path tool. And also you have to rotate. Remember to use the XY rotate to rotate the artwork as well. So it's always facing outward. And then the other thing that I covered is just making mouths using switch layers. But not just any switch layers. Each of these switch layers is also within a group. So there's group folders inside a switch layer. So that's something kind of new, because usually I make mouths just a little bit different. So that's all I have for now. Of course, I'm going to be making part 2, maybe even part 3. Well, definitely, because I need to make the body and all that other stuff. So yeah, that's it for now. If you guys have any questions or comments, as always, leave them down below. If you guys are looking for any artwork or some characters, I have a Gumroad store up now. Check that out. Links in the description. And there's some free stuff on there too. I think I'm going to make some fireworks and things like that for the 4th tomorrow that I'll just put up for free. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.